Welcome to this channel. This channel is for education and culture based on historical and scientific evidence. So in the past few days, I have shared the US3, the standard for practicing the Wing Chun Xiulin Tao sets. And after that, I have received message from our Wing Chun friends who want to practice their Xiulin Tao according to the US3 standard and asking me, can I give detailed instructions so that they can follow and benefit from the US3 standard practice. So today I'm going to share with you the instructions of practicing the Xiulin Tao set so that one be able to at least pass the standard of the US3 standard. Now, it is very important for those friends who really want to get result in their Xiulin Tao training. And many of our friends would like to use it in their school. And this is good because this will guarantee your student be able to learn Xiulin Tao properly, practice it properly, and get result. And also, it is explainable to those who practice today's sport martial arts on what one is doing. No more woo-woo, no more magic, no more fantasy. Now, today I'm going to share with you the entire process so that you can follow, okay? And you can use it right away, even today. But you need to be really careful, listen to what I am presenting in this video, take notes, make sure you follow every steps I'm presenting. Now, the US3 is a direct transfer from 1850 to 2022. So right now we are presenting the 1850s Wing Chun Xiulin Tao practice in today's language, in scientific language, in science, so that we be able to realize, to develop this kungfu of the ancient and be able to verify with our modern fitness tracker. Okay? So this is like a industrial standard, like the ISO 9000 and so forth. If you follow this, it is all scientific and you know exactly what it is you are training and you know your limitation, you know what you can do, what you must not touch. Because there's no such thing as one size fit all, and also there's no such thing as you don't have to know anything, everything. You just have to believe and you'll get there. Okay? Now, I like to share with you that the 1850 Wing Chun is not today's Wing Chun, which is mainly a creation of 1960s. Okay? Today's Wing Chun is a creation of 1960 mostly, on the structure, on the straight line, emphasize on this techniques, that techniques. Those are new creations. And then somebody might add in this Tai Chi, that Tai Chi call it internal. Those are all the modern creations. US3 is not on that. US3 is based on the ancient uh, 1850s Wing Chun, and it is based directly to the Shaolin short strike or 二枚十二桩 training. Okay. Now, it is very important to know the Red Boat 1850s Wing Chun is a short strike, meaning that the analogy is like if somebody chop you with a katana, you want to move in and attack him. It is never today's you stand square, center line to center line, exchange chain punch, using structure for your power. It never is like that. Okay? So the core of the ancient Wing Chun or the Shaolin short strike based Wing Chun is always you receive and you get in. It's like people chop you with a katana. You need to go inside there and disarm him or attack him. Okay? That is important idea. Of course, you can watch many video. I have explained to that if you haven't seen my other video. So we need to get this straight because it is a disaster today in Wing Chun. It is no longer what it is. And the US3 standard is a must. So US3 is just using today's scientific language to explain or to present what the 1850s requirement is in practice the Xiu Lim Tao sets, or what you want to achieve, what is the standard. Now, without this type of standard, the US3 standard, whatever techniques will never work. Okay? One need to condition this body to be able to generate the power, the strength, the momentum. And thus, the core right now, the soul right now, the nucleus right now, we know is US3. Without that, forget about it. There's no Wing Chun. Okay? According to the ancient, not according to Hendrik. In this channel, it's been proven many times with evidence. That's what it is. Okay? Now, as we know, the US3 standard have two parts. One is the, as the ancients say, externally train the muscle, sinews, and bone. That is one part. And then another part is internally train the breathing. So the US3 have two parts, and one need to satisfy these two parts in order to get the result from the Xiu Lim Tao practice. So the externally train the muscle, sinew, bone parts, or the external part or the physical part, means that one must be able to handle the physical body or the 7 balls. If you watch my video, the 7 balls, in a dynamic way at all instants when you practice Xiu Lim Tao sets. Okay? Meaning that your 7 balls start from your feet, your ankle, your knee, your hip, your shoulder blade, your elbow, your wrist, all this has to be dynamically moved. when you do any uh, move, because it's all dynamic. And if one be able to do that, one be able to test out with the vertical jump test. Okay, so you can go check in the Google on the purpose of the vertical jump test, how important it is for sports today, for sports training today. So meaning that if you train your 手领套 sets properly, you ought to be able to go down and jump up at any time, launch, and going down in a very well controlled handling. That is a basic indications of you be able to handle your body up and down. Okay? That is the indications of your handling of your seven balls, your physical body in dynamics, the very basic. Now, you need that because at every move in your 手领套, every joint have to move. Say if you do a sun punch, a sun punch is not like what in the 1960s or today's Wing Chun do. You have in a structure and you punch with your shoulder or your elbow power or your fist. No, a sun punch will be the entire body go. Okay, you see all my joint move when I punch. Because in fighting, you're going to punch that way. You never stand in the stance to punch this way. You don't have power, you don't have momentum to do those kind of stuff. Go watch the Xi Xiaodong's match versus Li Gang, and you can see that. The entire body you need to move. You have to train that way. Only you train that way, you'll be able to use it that way. Okay? So the entire 手领套 sets, it need to, if you move one part of your body, the other part of the body has to move. Otherwise, you are dragging your body. And that's why, again, the first test, the vertical jump test, is important. If you cannot move your body, say if you're keeping standing in this thing, triangle and all those things, you couldn't squat, you couldn't go jump up. That is actually a useless training, and actually is damaging training, because if you do this kind of stuff where your knee is like this instead of you have to be straight, you're violating all human body's mechanic. Today's sports science know that. There's no way you can develop any skill but damaging your body. Okay? So that is the physical part. Make sure your 手领套 practice, you can move every joint together at every move, and you'll be able to really comfortably pass the vertical jump test. Either you can jump 3 feet or just 5 inch. It depends on our body conditions. No matter what, you know what it means by being able to launch or be able to land properly. That is a must. If you cannot do that, guarantee your body will not be able to handle properly. Okay? So that is the physical part. Now let's get to the second part, which is the internally trained breathing part. See, in past 130 years, Wing Chun never presented the training of breathing. You can check all over in the history. And this is a disaster because in order to keep one healthy and in order to fight at high speed, one needs to know how to breathe properly. Now, so we have to know that in order to train this breathing stuff, one needs to base on the training of the external, meaning that one need to pass the vertical jump before going through all this thing. Okay. Now, luckily in today's sports science, we can present what the ancient mean for this internally trained breathing. So in today's term, on this breathing training is the first one is the aerobic base. So the standard is you need to have an aerobic based building or training. The second is heart rate variability. The third is the core stability or torso stability, which is involve your intra-abdominal pressure. Like even like the weight lifter, you have to have a good core stability, or else you cannot exert strength. The fourth is the Vo2 Max, which is linked to your fitness directly on how you can deliver your oxygen to your muscle and so forth. And the fifth is the aerobic threshold, which is related to your intensity, the maximum intensity of your movement, your exercise. Now you can read about this in the website. This is general sports science, aerobic base, heart rate variability or HRV, core stability, intra-abdominal pressure, VO2 max, and aerobic threshold. And please read it so that we understand what is going on with human body. This is a good detailed explanations when the ancients said internally train your breathing. So it is in my book, Wing Chun Inceptions. You have all different kind of physiological states of the ancient 1850s training. And now you want to take that and present it in today's language so everybody know, everybody can measure, everybody can develop it. Now, so let's get into the training of the breathing or the aerobic base, heart rate variability, core stability, VO2 max, aerobic, anaerobic threshold training with the Xiu Lim Tao. Okay. Now, for this training, first one need to develop one thing, and that is the 2C state or natural low abdominal training, abdominal breathing, which is be able to do 360-degree breathing. Okay, I have video for that before, and in my book, the Wing Chun Matrix, have shown precisely in detail how to develop that. The natural low abs breathing with 360-degree breathing. When one practice Xiu Lim Tao to get into this aerobic base development and so forth, one first need to have that developed. Okay, one need to know that, what it is before one get into that. Now, So in this internal training or breathing training, there are two parts. The first part is for help and for beginner and for warm up, for cool down, for building out our health. And that is to train, to practice 修炼套, to practice your 修炼套 with a heart rate between 65 to 75% of your maximum heart rate. So maximum heart rate is 220 minus your age. If I'm 60, 220 minus 60, it is 160. That is my maximum heart rate. So the first part of this breathing training is one practice the 修炼套 set with the heart rate between 65 to 75% of maximum heart rate. Okay, so it is like if I'm 60 years old, it is 220 minus 60, it is become 160, and 160, like you multiply by 0.7. That is the heart rate you want to practice your 修炼套 sets. And you want to repeat, not just do one set. You want to repeat like 2 or 3 sets continually, okay? So that you have long enough, like 10, 20 minutes of 修炼套 practice, but it is in a very low speed, and you don't use too much strength, and you keep your heart rate between 65 to 75% of a maximum heart rate. Okay, so that's how you build the aerobic base. You build the heart rate variability. You build the core stability, because you are at the beginning you have the 2C breathing where it is low abs breathing. So if you do that, the health, the aerobic base training this way, then you're going to build your aerobic base. Okay, so for the aerobic base, for heart rate variability, for your core stability, for your health, okay, for beginner, you want to practice 修炼套 sets, 2-3 sets in continue. Of course, based on our body, how much you can do it without really get your heart rate raised above 75%. Okay, and that's how it is. That's the first part for building the base, for health practice, not for fighting, but you're building the base, and then you build your body. Okay, now, then it comes the second part, which is targeting for your Vo2 Max and anaerobic threshold. That is for the endurance. Because if you want to fight, you need this type of training. So an example for building this, the Vo2 Max and anaerobic threshold, or building your endurance for real fight, there are two types. The first type is called interval practice. Interval practice. Interval practice is after you have built the aerobic base, as I just shared with you, for your health and building the base and so forth, warm up or cool down, that is the part. You want to practice the 修炼套 set. You want to practice 2 sets of 修炼套 set continuously with your heart rate between 80 to 90% of your maximum heart rate. So you practice 2 sets of 手念头 where your heart rate is going to start at around 80 and it zoom up to about 90. Okay? You want to practice 2 sets for that, and then you rest the same amount of time where you practice these 2 sets with the heart rate of 80 to 90% of your maximum heart rate. And then you repeat again 2 sets of 手念头 with those heart rate, and then you rest with the same amount of time. You want to do at least the 2 sets with 80 to 90% of the maximum heart rate, and then rest, and then going through another 2 sets, and then rest. You want to do this. But if your body cannot capable to do that, you stop at any time your heart rate fly more than 90%. Okay? So it's very important to get a fitness tracker. Today the fitness tracker is affordable. So get one, okay? So that is the interval practice to build out your Vo2 Max and your anaerobic threshold. Now, that is to go into fighting. Now, for fighting, for those high speed and high intensity fighting, you want to do a high intensity interval training. Okay? And the way how you practice is you choose in your 手念头 sets. You choose in your 手念头 sets. Say, if I want to do sun punch, the sun punch section, and then I want to do this section, you do it at the speed of your heart rate is between 90 to 100% or exit. You do it for 1 minute. And then you rest for 5 minutes. And then you do it again for 1 minute. And then you rest for 5 minutes. And of course, you can only do it within your effort. If you don't feel comfortable after you do this 1 minute and rest for 5 minutes, then don't do the second set, because all those interval and high intensity interval training, okay, these 2 training I just mentioned, it can damage the body. You get you into overtraining, and you cause damage to the body. So that's why you need the aerobic base before you can train this way. And if you have a diabetic, high blood pressure, heart problem, asthma, those stuff, don't do this part. Just do the first part to build the aerobic base. Okay? That has to be really clear. So as in my book, the Wing Chun Inception, you can see that there are certain training in the 1850 Xu Lim Tao writing that if the body is aging and so forth, you don't want to practice that, because your body really cannot take it. It's at your body limitation. Even for beginner, unless you build the base, you don't want to touch this stuff. And even if you do this practice like the interval and high intensity interval training, as I just shared with you, 1 minute, rest for 5 minutes, 1 minute, your heart rate between 90 and 100%, you rest for 5 minutes. If after the 5 minutes, your heart rate do not come down to say 80%, then you don't want to continue on. What you don't want is your heart rate get to 100, and then you wait for 5 minutes, the heart rate don't come down, and you go practice, that's going to damage your body. And if you practice for 1 minute, and then you rest for 5 minutes, if your heart rate do not go down to around 80, don't continue on, because your body is cannot handle that. So you see that the interval training is to practice 2 sets of 修炼套 between 80 to 90% of your maximum heart rate. And then you have the 1-to-1 ratio. The amount of time you're training the 修炼套 is the same with the amount of time you rest before you want to start another set. Now, for the interval is 1 to 5. 1 minute always, and then 5-minute rest. And you can choose any sections of your 修炼套. You break it apart, you practice, because for the high intensity interval training, what you can do there is what you're going to do in the real fight. Okay? Unless you train that, you cannot really being effective or efficient in a real fight. Okay? So say for the HIIT, the high intensity interval training, say if I want to train this bong sao, and then sinking and splitting, and then all this, I can do it in 1 minute, as fast as possible, as strong as possible. But now, as you see that the entire body move, and then you rest. You can stand or you walk around a little bit for 5 minutes, and then you do again. But if your heart rate do not drop down to around 80 or close to 85 or something, don't do it, because your body is not for it after 5 minutes. Okay? So this is how one using the 修炼套 to train so that one can pass the US3 standard. Now, say I'm 60-something year old. I have diabetic. I have heart issue. I have this issue and that issue. Well, I don't need to focus on this interval and high-intensity interval training, because my goal is not for fighting. I just train the base, aerobic base. That is the focus. And of course, in aerobic base, you will be able to help your health. Okay, and because you still move around, but it's not high speed, you help your core handling, and then you help your heart rate variability, help your breathing, and so forth. But you don't want to get into the high speed. Those high speed stuff, the interval and high intensity interval training are only for those who is young, who is ready, who is fit. Okay, make this sure, this is clear. With this, we know our limitations, we know what we can do, what we cannot do. As what I mentioned just now, if the heart rate at the, say, interval training between 80 and 90, I train that. After I'm doing 2 sets, I rest for 2 sets, but my heart rate is stay at 90. That means I'm not fit for that. Okay, I need to go back for my aerobic base. And if I cannot do that, so be it, because this is my body. No point you to push it that pushing is damage. Okay? And this is where the ancient Wing Chun is very well designed. It goes step by step. Now, this is just the basic. And there is another training which is lower than the aerobic training, which is the recovery or 呢捉气 training. Recovery or 呢捉气 training is when one is really exhausted, one is sick, or one is weak, or one just come out from a sickness or something. One do that, and that is your practice of 修炼套. Very, very slow, which is your heart rate is under 65% of your maximum heart rate. And that is using the N1 state as what I already write in details in my book, Wing Chun Inception. You get into the states, it is actually 呢捉气 or recover yourself. So when you're really tired, extremely exhausted, if you want to recover standing by practice 修炼套, you have to get into that state. Okay? So that is the real Qigong state. See, in today's sports, you don't have that state. But the Chinese have this Qigong. That is the Qigong state. And that is the state will link to the teaching of the Buddha on Anapanasati, the breathing and the entire body breathing for healing and so forth. So that is what it is. So now everything is clear for you. Okay? Watch this video, repeat again. You can find my other video, whatever I mentioned in this video, to have more clear on what I'm talking about, or get my book, Wing Chun Inception, Wing Chun Matrix, so that you know all this body mechanic stuff. This is not woo-woo, this is now in science. Okay? Now, one problem in my race is, what if your 修炼套 set is not properly designed? Like required to stand this way, required to tuck tailbone, everything. Now, the easy way out is I have the sets S21 in this channel doing that set. That set is actually accord to the US3. S21 is accord to US3. Okay, so you can do it in your aerobic base, heart rate variability, your core stability for health, and then you can do it for the Vo2 Max and anaerobic threshold, which is for endurance, which is for the high intensity fighting. So you can do the S21. Now, once you get good at this thing, you really know what you're doing, you can modify your 修炼套 sets. It's nothing that 修炼套 set is not that. Provided you know the US3, you know how, what is it supposed to do, that you'll be able to handle your body and your breathing better. So right now we know that, right? The aerobic base, heart rate variability, core stability, Vo2 max, and anaerobic threshold, all these are related to breathing. So it cannot be just saying, oh, qi. You can hear all around the world, qi here, but nobody tell you. So how the hell is going to get into this high-speed fighting? If your opponent is Mike Tyson, have you trained for that? Can you say song and then quiet, relax, be able to do the job? No, it cannot. Even the ancient have tell you already. And today I present to you in today's sports science term. Okay? If you don't have that training, don't do that thing. Your body is going to get damaged. The safe thing is if you do this aerobic base and you do the qigong or N1 or the nurture qi or recovery, and that can further help you to handle your VO2 heart rate variability, because it's like meditation already. It get down. It relax your body. Okay, it recover your body. So I hope that this clean the entire thing for all Wing Chuners in the world today who really want to get something out from the Xu Lian Tao sets. So this is what it is. No lineage, no grandmaster, but its science is based on ancient teaching. It accord to the Shaolin. And if you do this, you'll be able to know what exactly written in the Shaolin short strike writing. Without this, you use the 1960s type of Wing Chun or 1920 type of Wing Chun where you add in Feng Xiu Chings, when you add in Wing Chun and all these things, you will never get here. That's why you make a gap that you have no idea how is the people in the 1850s and above do. You create a gap there to block yourself. Not to mention that in the past few decades, everybody is trying to figure out things, having their own interpretations.